Hey, everybody, welcome into the show. This week in Rangers baseball, y'all made an executive decision. That's the name of the show. It only took us halfway through the season to come up with one. So I'm going to have to start condensing this is condensing language. I'm going to have to, it's clappy hands too. I'm going to have to start condensing the intro. But it is This Week in Rangers baseball, y'all. And this week, we're going to talk trades. I know it's your favorite thing in the world. Whoa! Little mishap with the computer there. Just trying to get myself perfectly centered for you. We're going to talk trades and what the Rangers should and should not do over the next 6 weeks. If you've read along with us in the print version of the newspaper or on this little doohickey here, a computer, phone, iPad, whatever you may be using, you know that I felt like the last weekend in Detroit was a wasted opportunity for the Rangers. I really felt like after they won the first 2 games of the series against the Detroit team that seemed to be limping badly and without much direction and had been a significant disappointment, I thought they were going to go ahead and pull off a road sweep, or at the very least win 3 of 4, which would have put them back within a game of 500 or at 500 coming home. But they didn't. The Rangers did not take advantage of the opportunity in front of them. And what I deduce from all this is, and things can always change, but what I deduce from all this is look, as you close in on the halfway point of the season, somewhere between the third mile marker and the halfway point, teams kind of are what they are. And what the Rangers are as constructed is basically a 500 to slightly below 500 team. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think that what we have seen take place here is that the 4 teams in the American League East are significantly ahead of just about everybody in the league. Obviously, the Astros are quite good, and I think in the Central, while the Twins and Guardians, I almost said Indians. While the Twins and Guardians are playing better than expected, I think at some point in time the Chicago White Sox are either going to get their act together or make a change in the managerial department to try and give themselves a jump start. And what it all comes down to is I think that when it's all said and done, the Rangers are probably no better than the 8th or 9th place team in the American League. So they're not a playoff team. So what do? Do you trade off your pieces this year again and keep that cycle of the rebuild going, or what? Well, I think it's certainly not quite as clear as I think it would be in previous years. This team is on pace for about 77 wins as we stand right now, and that would be a significant improvement over 2020 and 2021. And I think that's important to management. And I think building on an improvement is important to management. And when I say management, I'm talking about from the general manager's office all the way up to ownership. And so I think that this team is more likely to look for an opportunity to add than it is to necessarily peel off. But even with that, it's not as easy as just putting a club these days as putting a club in one pile. This is the international marker for pile. Of buyer or seller, because I think very well the Rangers could make moves that put them in both categories. I think let's look at some individual cases here. I think the biggest question is Martin Perez. He's pitched. He should be an all-star. He's pitched like an all-star, and he's on a 1-year contract. He's been far better than anybody expected. He is key to the Rangers continuing to move forward this year. He's become, I hate to toss this word around, but he's become something of a leader in the clubhouse, particularly among younger pitchers, certainly the young Latin players. He has added a lot to the clubhouse. What you would get for Martin Perez, in all likelihood, as a 2-month rental, who would probably slot into a championship rotation probably still as a number three starter, uh, is minimal. Um, I don't want to say it would be nothing, but it's not going to be a haul. And so what you weigh is Martin Perez right now important enough to the Rangers' goals for 2022, and particularly to re-sign him. And I think there would be a very fair extension of a year or two available to Martin Perez, significant enough to 2022 and beyond that you would say let's look to keep him here rather than trade him. And so I think the Rangers probably lean in that direction. All that said, when you're in a Rangers case, you cannot afford to simply say we're not listening. So if somebody were to come to you and offer the world for Martin Perez, if they thought that Martin Perez was the answer to their rotations problems, certainly you have to entertain that, because he is on a 1 year deal. He doesn't owe you any loyalty. Um, I think the match is right for the Rangers and Martin long term, but you still have to consider all those factors. Now, so let's say you keep and extend Martin Perez. Okay, you're a buyer. You're going to go out and you're going to go try and get, let's say, another starting pitcher. Because I think if anything has showed up this year, it is that the starting pitching prospects in the organization who the Rangers thought were close to contributing at the big league level have left something to be desired. That goes, Taylor Hearn has struggled at the big league level. Spencer Howard may get another shot, but he struggled in a brief appearance. AJ Alexei hasn't really even given him a chance at the big league level this year himself. Uh, Glenn Otto, I think the jury is still out on. There's certainly some positives there. We'll see what happens when he comes back from his COVID IL. And of course, Cole Winn, who started the season as the Rangers' second best pitching prospect, he may not be the second best pitching prospect anymore. I think Owen White, who just got promoted to Frisco, has maybe surpassed him. Certainly Owen White and Cole Reagans are having the best year among Rangers pitchers, even when you include Jack Leiter. So Wynn hasn't really taken a big step forward yet. So if I'm the Rangers, I'm looking and saying, I look around the diamond and look at what my questions and my hopes are. And I'd say, look, I'd like to add a pitcher, a controllable starting pitcher. Are there guys out there who will be available? Yes. I mean, that list starts with Frankie Montas at the A's. I think it also includes Edward Cabrera of the Marlins, Merrill Kelly of the Diamondbacks, Kyle Freeland potentially of the Rockies, and Luis Castillo of Cincinnati. There's a group of controllable starting pitchers. And when I say that, I'm talking about a guy who would be under contract, not just for the rest of 2022, but through 2023. And probably in the Rangers case, you'd want to go, if you're going to go out and make a trade to acquire somebody, you'd want somebody who would be at least under club control with arbitration through 2024, because I think the Rangers feel like their window is going to start in earnestness in 2023, and you'd want somebody to be a part of 2 playoff runs for sure, and buy you some more time while the guys like Owen White and Jack Leiter and potentially Larson Kendrick, a surprising 8th round pick from last year, all start to move a little bit closer to the big league level. What's that going to take? Listen, I think that one of the good things that the Rangers have seen this year is that with the rise of Josh Smith and Ezekiel Duran, and certainly the idea that Josh Young is going to have a place in the club's future, it makes a middle infielder available. Justin Foscue is probably limited to second base. I would also say if a guy can play second base, in my mind, there's some chance that if he hits enough, he can play first base as well. But I would think that somebody like Justin Foscue, who's having a very good year at AA on the offensive side, would be somebody that the Rangers could potentially look at as a potential trade chip if they were going to go out and get a controllable starting pitcher. Certainly Justin Foscue alone wouldn't do it, but he would be at the top of the list of I think, available players for the Rangers to deal. I wouldn't throw Cole Winn out of that mix. I know he's probably hurt his value a little bit, or maybe he's made himself just a little bit more expendable. But also with the presence of guys like Leiter like the rise of Owen White, the rebound of Cole Reagans, Larson Kendrick, with a number of other guys coming available. If Cole is slipping in the Rangers prospect pecking order, I think he could be a guy that the Rangers would consider putting in a deal for a controllable starting pitcher who they feel is going to be a significant part of their rotation over the next couple of years. Now, all that said, so who else are they buying? I don't think anybody else, to be honest with you. I think that if the Rangers could go out and get a starting pitcher that would be of help for 2023 and 2024, I think that's the biggest thing they could do at the trade deadline. Now, so does that mean they're standing pat the rest of the way? I'm not so sure, because now let's look at the outfield situation. You've got Adolis Garcia, who's not yet arbitration eligible, and I think has established himself as pretty close to an everyday player. I don't know that I would consider Adolis a star. He plays with incredible emotion, is very energetic, does some really nice things well. I think he's going to have to continue this surge that he's on right now for the rest of the year to really kind of establish himself as an above average everyday player. But I think right now he certainly fits in your outfield plans. You add Leody Taveras, who's now come up and is going to get a long look in center field. And now factor in that somebody from Ezekiel Duran or Josh Smith very possibly ends up moving to left field. Now all of a sudden you have itchy heads back. I blame the sun. Now all of a sudden you have something of a crowd in the outfield, with the possibility that it's even more crowded for 23 when Josh Young, you hope, is healthy. So what could the Rangers do right now? Well, I'm not endorsing trading Duran or Smith. I certainly wouldn't do that. I think these guys are the kind of players the Rangers have identified as really good assets going forward. But it does put you in a situation now where if you feel like Duran and Smith can help you this year, it does put you in a potential situation where all of a sudden you're looking at a veteran like Cole Calhoun or Brad Miller, guys who would be valuable to a playoff team. They've both been on playoff runs. They both can help a club. Calhoun's obviously an above average defender. Miller has some versatility. Both are left-handed bats. Again, these are not guys who are going to get you a ton, but you potentially can kind of churn the roster a little bit more. You create spots for Duran and Smith if you feel like they deserve them come the middle of July, if they're still performing well. And you potentially can go out and take a flyer on a real low-level minor league prospect who might have a high ceiling or at least one high tool, but has some flaws in some other areas, and hope that you hit. So those are two things I think the Rangers could look at there. Beyond that, though, I think that by and large, this team will stay pat. I think the goals here are to show a significant one-loss improvement over 2021, and getting to 75 to 80 wins would be a huge step, putting themselves in better position to contend in 23 by potentially going out and adding another starter and keeping Martin Perez would go a long way to stabilizing the rotation, which I think is a question mark going forward, and creating opportunities for two young players who you think are championship caliber players in Smith and Duran would be big steps. So I think there's a narrow path for the Rangers to walk here to satisfy all of their goals for 2022, but I think it's certainly feasible, and it becomes that much more. You can visualize it a little bit more at this point in time. So there's a long way to go. The schedule is favorable for the Rangers through the end of July. There's a lot of things that could happen between now and then. But as we sit here right now, if I'm the Rangers, that's the narrow channel that I'm trying to navigate through to get better for the long haul. The long haul being the not too distant future, create opportunities for the young guys that have really earned it, and retain, in some cases, some veterans who you think can help you going forward. So that's it for this week in baseball, y'all. That was my dissertation. Actually, I feel like today had some linear thought for a change. I got to figure out better hand motions. Anyway, that's it for today. It was great talking with you. And darn it, like this video on YouTube, subscribe on the YouTube channel. That's the best way to tell everybody at the Dallas Morning News and dallasnews.com how much you want more video content and more of me and my giant bulbous nose coming at you every week. So thumbs up on a like, give me a comment if you want, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.